An interesting thing I'm really finding out about aging is that it's kind of like everything. It's really your perspective with it. I think one thing I'm really enjoying about aging is the idea of there's just so much wisdom and knowledge and experience that one has, as one's lived here on earth for a long time. You can also get bogged down into like the aches and the pains and the slowness. And then when you get around young people and you see that, they have so much like life and vitality and all of that. But that's something that we can still tap into it at any age and any year. I know for myself that, right now I'm kind of in a slower time physically. I'm supposed to have a minor operation in a couple of weeks. And so I'm having to kind of take it a little bit slower. But I know that once my body recovers from that, I also know from experience that I can turn it around and I can really start, working out again, really becoming much more intentional and moving forward, which really means that I get to have the best of both worlds. I can have that vitality and that energy, but I can also have the wisdom as well. So it tends to make me feel really bad for people that are young because they don't have all that wisdom and that experience. And I think it's really important for both older people and for younger people to really mix, because I meet a lot of young people today who just don't seem to have, especially younger men who just don't seem to have that mentorship. They don't seem to have that person, that they can come to, and ask those questions. Those are really important, questions of how things work and how they should move forward. And I'm finding that a lot of young people are really seeking that and really open to that. And so I think it's really important for older people to keep that in mind and realize that we do have so much information and so much wisdom and knowledge that we can give. Good morning. And that if we pass that on, and that's something that can go on living even past us. And we can really be part of making this world so much better, by imparting that wisdom to others and not having people like reinvent the wheel. That's one thing I've always not liked doing, is having to reinvent the wheel. I'm like, somebody's got to been through this before. And I find so many situations in my life where I've had to just go out there and figure it out and like forge a new way. And I've often been told, oh, this is the first time we've encountered this. And I'm like, how is this even possible with so many billions of people here on this planet? That so many situations that I end up being in are like the first timer situations. So that's why I think it's important for us to impart our knowledge and our wisdom to each other. Because I have a feeling somebody has been through it before, but somebody didn't impart the knowledge and the wisdom that they have. And so I think it's important that we do that and let's go forward. So if you're an older person, don't discount the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience that you've had. Realize that you have a lot of wisdom and experience and knowledge. And if you're a younger person, don't get caught into that trap where you think you have it all figured out. That's a very easy trap to fall into when you're young. I know I certainly did it, and all of us do it, especially when we hit, around that early 20s age, usually younger 20s age, we think we have it all figured out. And believe me, you don't. You don't know anything. That is one thing that that is one thing that happens as you get more education, as you get more life experience, as you get more wisdom, you find out how little you do know, if you know anything. In fact, the longer you live, I think, and the longer and the more educated you get, you realize that you're even dumber in a way, because not because you've lost knowledge, but because you realize how much is out there that you have absolutely no idea. You get an idea of how much you don't even know. And I think the magic of knowing that and stepping into it is that you have to really step into like a faith and a grace to believe that you are supported even without knowing. I mean, I think there's an extra angel of faith and grace that happens for the younger generation because they just so blindly go out there and do things and still are supported and mostly kept well. And I think it's important for young people to realize that what you do early in life is going to have true, repercussions as you get older. Certainly, if I had done certain things, completely differently, I would lead a completely different life. Perhaps it might even be, easier financially and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I like who I am, and I wouldn't be who I am if I'd done anything differently. But I can now make those choices today that are different, and there's still life. There's still lots of life ahead of me, and there's still lots of vitality and energy that I can pull reserves from the universe, and I can really revitalize myself. And then I can have that combination of vitality and energy and wisdom. Perhaps it won't look like it did when I was 20, but I think it'll look really good for a 61-year-old. And at really what matters is that I'll enjoy it. Doesn't matter if anybody else will enjoy it or like it. And that's another secret sauce of being older that is really bad for the young people, is you just get your F's go away. I mean, you really do. You really get to where, because you have to get to a point of where you start realizing all the things that you cared about, all the people's opinions that you listened to, all the times you watered yourself down, all the times you didn't listen to your heart and go with your authentic self. And then those people that you listen to, or those societal norms that you adhere to, they're nowhere around. They're not there to support you. They're not taking care of you. They're not loving you and telling you, helping support you in your daily life. They're gone. And so they're really of no consequence. They weren't there ever to serve you in the first place. I think what they're there to see if you're really serious about becoming true and real and authentic in your life. I think that's what the universe does, is sometimes the universe makes things just a little bit harder because it wants to see if we're serious about it. And also, what that does is when you do achieve whatever it is, even if it's just showing up as your true authentic self, or if you truly achieve something or push through something, it becomes even more special. Because if everything was super easy, we wouldn't appreciate anything. But when something is really, really hard and you get through it and you make it and perhaps you thrive, or in your own estimation you thrive, you appreciate it even more. It becomes even more special and more of a gift to you. I think that's what life at the end is trying to show us and tell us, is that the hard makes things special. And so if we didn't have the hard, nothing would be special. Nothing would be there that we could see as a gift. We couldn't sit back and think about how much we really enjoy and relish things that were, that we can sit back and we can relish the things that were really hard if we push through them. And we wouldn't have that if they were super easy. So maybe we can be really thankful for the hard times. And it teaches you to hone your skill. It teaches you to hone your skill of faith and to really look for that grace muscle. And what I mean by grace is this idea that you're kind of held in this liminal space where you're held and kept well. You're held and kept in some shape, way, or form, able to move forward. Because if you're in a challenge right now and you're still breathing, well, it hasn't killed you. And that's part of grace. And I'm not saying this kind of like offhandedly, because I've been through some really, really hard times. So I get it. And I'm telling you from my voice of experience that looking back, I can see how grace held me. I can see how, even though grace didn't step in and necessarily make it easy or take away the pain or anything like that, it was still there, taking care of me and facilitating me so that I could find a way to move forward. And believe me, if Big Daddy Divine had moved in and just taken over and made everything well, I wouldn't appreciate it. And I wouldn't work so hard at keeping up and taking care of the things that I have moved through if some entity or some power or some divine being had just instantly, and it fixed everything all nice and put a bow on it, there'd be no appreciation for it. There'd be no gift to it. So that's the amazing gift of hard times, is it makes you really appreciate it when you get through it. And I'm at the end of my walk and my rant for today, my grandpapa rant. Until later, love, peace, and release.